All right, welcome back. Preds Power Hour on a Friday. We do this every Friday afternoon here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Bryan Bastin over there, Middle Tennessee. He's got the Tennessee hockey merch repping tonight.
Such a sick
Look at
jersey.
that.
Yes.
Sensational.
Make sure you get out there and support them, please.
Absolutely. Bryan, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Not too bad. Friday night lights, high school football in full swing as like a nice little appetizer for Tennessee being back. The Falcons are back, and I will see how much that will be a welcome re-addition to my weekend life. But we'll see. I'm just glad that we're just so close to everything being back. Basketball, hockey, everything. The fall is just the best time for sports. Charlie Burris, also here of A to Z Sports. Charlie, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Doing okay. Coming off of a wild birthday weekend in Nashville where I, for the very first time, I went to Broadway and went to honky tonk bars and stuff. I think I said it last week, born in Nashville, have never done that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Finally did it. And I'll say, I don't suggest it. Don't do
Yeah.
it.
Wow. What was wrong with it?
It was not bad. It's not my, I'll put it this way, it's not my scene as a 31-year-old who gets up at 7 a.m. most mornings.
You're speaking my language. We're all in our 30s, right? We can all just say we're past that point in our life. We're not there anymore.
It was fun though. And this is all credit to my wife actually. She, unbeknownst to me, as like a birthday gift, so she got us shirts. Hers said Mrs. and mine said Mr. And we wore those out that night just to go on Broadway. And everybody, it's just bachelorette parties. That's all that's out there now. I mean, that's the only people that you see. Everybody was like, congrats. Well, we were married 6.5 years ago. I mean, this was nothing new. And it was really funny. We went around and we just told people, we told one group of people, we were like, oh yeah, we got married earlier today in Gatlinburg. And the girl was like, I'm from Boston. I don't know what that is. And then we went and told another group, we were like, there's a chapel in Nashville that we looked up where Elvis will marry you. And we were like, oh yeah, we went there and Elvis married us earlier today. It was crazy. So we just went around lying to people.
There you go.
There you go. Hey, yeah, that's an interesting night.
It's vacation, man. Be somebody else for the weekend.
Dude, It was hilarious. It was really fun. It was genuinely fun. And then the next morning I wanted to die. So that was the payoff.
Well, there you go. There's like two types of people in this world. The girls who want to go to Gatlinburg for their bachelorette party, like my fiance who did that last weekend. So it's funny you say that, like the whole, like we got married, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's where my fiance actually was last weekend. And then there is the Nashville bachelorette crowd where
wild.
That I would not have ended up with. I don't think that would have matched up with my vibe.
It's far more wild than I think I've ever seen it. Like I said, this is the first time I've truly participated, but I've been down there late at night at different points in my life. And it was just the most packed, the most popular. Every bar had a giant line outside. I mean, it was, and honestly, the bulk of the times I've been down there is after Predators games. You walk out, you're right there. And it just, man, it is as crazy as it's ever been. Good for Nashville though. I mean, hey.
Oh yeah, I mean, the new job, I work right downtown, a couple blocks from Bridgestone, and you see it like starting about 11 o'clock. There's bachelorette parties and groups of girls, and
11 a.m.
out there. Oh yeah, middle of the week, Wednesday.
Oh dude, I went. It was the next morning, Saturday morning. Left the hotel. There's a bagel place, just like you could look right out on it from our hotel. And I went there, and as I was walking, 8:30 in the morning. 7 girls get in front of me, and I was like, no! They walked right in front of me into the bagel place. I had to wait in line behind these like 7 chicks that were all in a bachelorette party. They're everywhere all the time. But this was a final funny story from that thing. The real reason that we were there is that me and my wife are huge food people, and we went and ate at these nice restaurants. And one of the ones we ate at is this place in 12 South, which if you live in Nashville, it's like the hippest
one of them. Yeah, definitely.
Just like Reese Witherspoon has a store down there. It's like a whole thing.
Okay.
And we went to this place called Locust, which if you have not been there, is unbelievable food. I'll just drop that in there. Give them a plug because the restaurant's incredible. But Gwyneth Paltrow was there. She was like in Nashville. I was like, that's the lady from the Avengers. Look.
Yeah.
And she just happened to be there. So it was a wild time, man. Yeah. I think probably only like the second or third time I've seen like truly famous people out in Nashville.
It's odd though, because you can run into celebrities and people like that, but it's always like not quite what you would imagine. Like sometimes you get a country star, like for example, at Predators games is the reason why I've seen Creed play live in person twice in my life now.
Dude, you lucky.
I mean, I don't know how else to say that. Like, yes, it's been a weird, I've seen a lot of, country stars and people, but seeing Creed play twice, actually 3 times if you count watching them play the entire set and warm-ups before the game.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a real gift that I've been given.
With arms wide open.
They're goats, man. Creed.
Yeah.
If you love that music.
Real quick, Chase. A second ago, you were talking a little bit louder, and I could hear an echo. I don't know if you can still hear it or not, if you can tell.
Oh, I don't hear an echo now.
Okay.
Do you still hear it?
Okay.
Yeah,
I was picking it up on your side, I think.
That's weird. I think we're good on the echo, but I'll double check.
I'm sorry. I was debating.
No, you're good, man. That's good.
I
don't want an echo on this. That would be an issue for the rest of the podcast. But Charlie, we'll end on this. What was the best thing you ate over the weekend? What was the best thing you ate?
That's an amazing question. So there's this restaurant called Audrey. It's run by this guy, Sean Brock. We actually got to meet. He has like a Netflix documentary made about him. He's like that famous of a chef and has a restaurant in Nashville called Audrey. We went there and they had this corn soup that was in Japanese style corn soup. It was unbelievable. It was so like unassuming too. You're like, corn soup, what? Got it. And it was just so crazy.
Corn soup.
Good. Yeah, but they also like at Locust, that restaurant had beef tartare that was unbelievable. If you're one of the people that's like brave enough to eat raw beef, I know it freaks some people out, but it's if you're on that train, dude, go to Locust, get the beef tartare. It's incredible. So yeah, there was plenty. Like I said, that was like the reason we went. So
there you go.
Yeah. So that's my weekend. I don't mean to bore you, but
no, this is interesting,
man.
It's
fantastic.
I like it. Phil Kessel, though, we don't like signing with Vegas 1 year, $1.5 million deal. Whew, your instant reaction to Kessel going to Vegas, Bryan?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I don't, it's easy to say that, like, well, why didn't the Predators get him for $1.5 million for a year? There've been talks about him being somebody that would be interested in joining the Predators for the last year and a half or so. But I don't get the sense. I think it was either a matter of Kessel had his places he wanted to go, and I think Vegas maybe gave him a better opportunity to have a little bit more success immediately, kind of with how that roster's turning out, although we'll see with their goaltending situation. But on the other hand, too, like I don't also, I think Poyle and the Predators would have actually, put in a lot more. We'd have heard a little bit more noise, although we didn't hear anything around Niederreiter either. So I'm not sure. It's disappointing, and I think he could have fit. But I think it would have been at the expense of one of the younger players, because you're not going to put a Phil Kessel down on the fourth line or anything like that. So it would have been interesting. I wish it would have happened. It didn't. We can still hold out for go grab Evan Rodriguez. I still think he's a fantastic free agent that's out there. They could be got for value. So who knows? But it's sad.
It's interesting with Kessel though. It's looking at his stats. I mean, he doesn't have much career left. What's he? 34. He's in the twilight there. But the thing that I noticed in looking at his stats, his plus minus has gotten progressively worse. And I don't know how much to put of that on the fact that he just played for a not very good team in Arizona, albeit one that beat the Predators in the freaking play-in round 2 years ago.
And who also will be playing in an arena that is smaller than an arena that I have been in many a times in my life in the Atlanta Gladiators, who are now their ECHL affiliate. Just unreal stuff. Great job all around.
Just sell the team, first of all, Coyote. It's embarrassing. But my question with him, he put up 52 points, only 8 goals. It was 44 assists this last year, which is just a weird stat line. But he still is producing. But how much could you have even expected? I think it would have been good. I do, and I do wish they would have picked him up. I don't know why they didn't. Why does Poyle do a lot of things he does? But I do look at it and I go like, really, how much would you have gotten out of him? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too cynical there, but
yeah, I mean it's definitely reasonable. Again, he's a goal scorer, his whole career, and this last season he just couldn't finish. He was doing excellent, as far as setting up teammates. 44 assists, which is what, top four or five in his career. So I mean that's still impressive. But knowing what he can do, I mean, I think he also has like a modified no trade clause, so he's got a 10-team list. And I'm thinking that with Vegas, they can, they've got the mindset that they've got him for 1.5 for this year. If the deadline comes and they don't feel like, if someone wants to take him off their hands, then that would be an option. They need something now, because obviously with their goaltending situation being the way that it is, they're in a little bit more of a crunch right now. But we'll see how that goes. But I don't think this, I think when it come around deadline time, we're going to hear more and more about, will Nashville finally go get Phil Kessel? So the dream's not totally dead, but at least it is for now.
Well, what do you think they do? Because we've talked the last couple of weeks about, with that little bit of cap space left, the little bit of money that the Preds still have now that Kessel's off the board. You mentioned someone that they could target with that remaining pool of money, but do you think they actually use it? And do you think there is someone left over that interests you enough to use it on, Bryan?
Yeah, so they've got about $2.4 million left. Last year they went into the season, I think, with like 4 or 5 million. They wanted to keep their options open, which helped. They've got 13 forwards, 7 defensemen on the roster right now with 2 goaltenders. There's still a question of where Connor Ingram is going to end up and how much time he's going to spend in the NHL. I think they're pretty happy at this point. I think that they've got guys in the system, in the pipeline, that they're ready to move up and down. They're going to be giving guys like Eeli Tolvanen and Philip Tomasino chances, and Cody Glass, to really solidify that bottom 6 and to make a spot on the roster for them. I don't know that there's a lot of players now at this point that are out there that would be a complete upgrade, a second line forward winger maybe that could take the spot of, alongside Johansen, Niederreiter. A guy like Evan Rodriguez, I think, is a perfect option. He's kind of broken out since he left Pittsburgh. He's been, excellent. He's been an analytics darling, which is, kind of my bread and butter, but he's also been, you're just seeing a steady increase in the season. And I think because it's this late in the market, he's still not signed. Guys, same with guys like Rocco Grimaldi, still not signed. He could be gotten for a deal. He could be gotten for under $2 million, maybe for a 1-year deal. So, but again, I think that they're sitting on that 2.3, knowing that they've got, we're going to see how this season goes, and they may need it after the season starts. And so I don't know. I wouldn't put money down that they make any more moves, but I wouldn't mind seeing them make one more move to kind of shore up the middle of that offense.
I love the idea of it just being like Poyle gets a surplus. Like, I think of The Office when I see this all the time, where it's like, Michael, do you know when Mike, the whole chair or new copier situation, and it's like you have 2.5 million, and the Bill Haslam comes in and he's like, well, if you don't use that money, that turns into a little bit of a bonus for you. And then he has to come out and he's like, look, there's just not a lot out there that we like, and we're happy with where we're at. And we're just going to go into the season and see what happens. There's just somebody in the Preds front office like, do you know, Dave?
Wouldn't surprise me.
That would be funny. The cover of NHL 23 is out. What do you make of the new NHL 23? Is it just 2023 or just 23? It always throws me out.
One of the two. I'm not sure, but I think it's a pretty cool story, and I put this in here that so they announced Trevor Zegras from the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, I think everybody, if there's a household name and outside of hockey for sports fans, it would probably be Zegras right now, with just how electric and how much he upsets the old guard in hockey with his trick shots and things like that. But he's also going to be sharing the cover with Sarah Nurse, currently with Team Canada. She was the first Black Olympian for Team Canada to win gold medal in hockey. She is currently actually playing in the World Championships. I'm trying to think, was it this week? She's still with the team. She's been in Team Canada. She won gold medal in 2020. She's working with the Toronto Six in the PHF right now, and she's been an ambassador for women's hockey. And so this is kind of a really cool news story to see. She actually just had a profile yesterday in the New York Times in their sports section yesterday about Sarah Nurse, and so it's really cool to see this. I think there's some people that are salty for different reasons as to why these guys are on there, mostly because of Zegras, I think, which is kind of a welcome change. Because a lot of the old guard, the veterans, are like, oh, well, if the kid's going to try to score a flashy goal on me like that, then I'm going to make sure I hit him extra hard next time. And it's like, well, no, just make sure he doesn't score on you like that again. That's when you get somebody with an exciting personality or somebody who brings like a lot of excitement and change to the game, there's a lot of resistance. And I always love that type of player. And so I'm excited to see that. I'm excited for Sarah Nurse to be there as an ambassador for women's hockey, for them to be in the game as well. So it's pretty cool news, I thought.
And also just the Ducks, man, been really, really starved for just fun hockey. Just when every year for several years, it was just that like, well, they've got a goalie, man. Like, I don't know if you've seen Gibson, but that man is a goalie. And they're like, all right, what else you got? Oh, have you heard about Gibson? Have you heard about the rotation with Gibson and Miller? Like, have you seen, like, if he goes down, we're okay. Like, we have the best goalie duo in hockey. Like, hey, we might lose 1-0 more often than not, but if our offense, we get a little bit of scoring every now and then, just a little bit, we might win 2-1 every now and then. We might win 1-0. And now you actually have some exciting and fun. And I think the Ducks especially need that, because I just feel like it's been a rough time, even with Dallas Eakins and everybody else in the building. You're just like, you're starved to get over the hump, because I think they've been treading water for a really long time. And you talk about the old guard, they were run by the old guard basically for a really long time, kind of an outdated system, and just the way they were doing business in Anaheim. I think it's a fun thing to have a jolt of young, youthful, fun energy in Anaheim.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'd be interested to know, for really the cover of any of these video games, the amount of years the people who are on the cover have played in the given sport. And just relative, like, is it the old heads that get on there way more? Obviously, the female on the cover is like a huge change. It's kind of a different conversation. But I think a lot of people were like, this kid just showed up. What are we doing? Like, he is just this flashy new guy, and that would be an interesting thing to kind of somebody's probably done that. Some kind of spreadsheet that exists out there. But
is he the most marketable young star now, Bryan, or do you think there's someone else that would have made more sense? Like McKinnon, how many times has he been on?
McKinnon, like, still young, and he just
McKinnon is still these guys are all still young, but again, McKinnon's he's a hockey guy. He's he's not that type of a person. Zegras has been somebody that, like, I'd say he's probably maybe the most. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think Zegras is the one that's like, if you're going to look at a guy, I mean, like, let's look at the last, I'm looking at a few years of their covers. They had Ovechkin in 21, which, obviously, Austin Matthews, PK Subban in 2019, Connor McDavid, Vladimir Tarasenko. So, I mean, they're guys that you would expect. I mean, there's a mixture of those guys who are now considered, older when they're in their late 20s. Or Ovechkin, who's immortal. The machine never stops. But I think he's a guy that the league can put as their as the face of the league, as something going forward to try to grow the sport. Something that I don't think, I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit. I think that a lot can be said for what Gary Bettman has done in his tenure as far as expanding the NHL and growing it. I don't think that he's done nearly enough, and I think it's at the expense of a lot of other things. And Knowing the NHL, with Bettman in charge, we'll see what happens. They see if they can continue to focus, their energy on guys like Zegras who are exciting and can help grow the game, or if they're going to push him away and try to, temper down his excitement and his energy, and we'll get another kind of boring player that's great but doesn't have much of a personality. So I hope this guy is continues to be the real deal and continues to be the face, of the young NHL players.
I do think it makes a difference that Zegras looks like he's like a star on TikTok. Like he just looks like what is the kosher word for an F boy? You know what I mean? Like it just he's got the flowy haircut and he just looks like he dances on TikTok. Like he looks like he'd be famous for that more than he'd be famous for hockey. And I feel like that probably weighs into it. It's like if he was like ugly like Alexander Ovechkin, he's probably not pissing off as many people, but he just looks like a heartthrob character.
Yeah. But then you could say the same about Roman Josi, who does look like
that's true.
A fashion model at all times.
He
even
really does.
At like 6 a.m. in Switzerland over a Zoom call, man still looked impeccable.
Gosh.
It's easy for him. It's like more power to him, man. Just can't. We don't all have it. No. Charlie, for you, the most interesting player going into next season for Nashville is who?
Man, this was so tough. I don't even know. I do have a set answer that I know I'm going to say, but I don't even know if I agree with myself here because there were just a number of options. But I just think because of the situation that he's in, like to me, like a Ryan Johansen in this year, because he's a guy that's like at the end, to me, he's like at the end of his rope. And that's probably, I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but you've just expected, since he showed up from Columbus, you were really expecting him to be this special guy. And he has shown these flashes where you go like, oh, do that, be that all the time, do this. Why are you not that constantly? And you just gotta expect more or move on. And it's a guy in a year like that, and there's kind of he's not the only one on this roster, but a guy in a year like that makes it just a really interesting situation to me. What is he going to do when your back's against the wall? And I hope to whatever extent the management is saying to him, like, hey, we got to see it or else, surely that has been expressed to whatever extent to him. And I'm sure he knows that. But I just think because of the situation that he finds himself in, where you're on the brink of going down the other side of your career trajectory, you're probably maybe even past the peak of his abilities. And, but how is he going to perform after, let's be honest, kind of underperforming for most of his time here? Not horrifically underperforming, but still underperforming out of what we probably expected. So I that was one that I think it's tough. There's a few pretty fascinating storylines this year if you pay close attention to the Preds, but that one stuck out to me.
Yeah, Joey's an interesting case, and I'm working on a preview of him for on the Forecheck right now, and it's actually interesting because yes, he's had this he's just not been that guy they expected to get from Columbus. In his last 2 seasons and folk seasons in Columbus in 2013 and 2014, 33 goals, 26 goals, 63 points, 71 points, and then never got close to either one of those numbers really the entire time he was with Nashville until actually last year, which was interesting because his season does get forgotten about just because of Forsberg and Duchesne and everybody like that, and Roman Josi and Tanner Jeannot. I mean, 26 goals is the most he's had since 2014, 2015. 37 assists, which, that brings him to 63 points, which is tied for the third highest in his career. He's a guy that he's always been a guy that, because of a lot of his contributions were in his passing. And so again, with analytics, it's all shot based because you only have so much data, it's a little bit behind as far as, in sports and analytics, but he was always really undervalued. And in the last couple of seasons, he's really kind of turned himself around because he's excellent at generating chances. And they're starting to see where his his ability is starting to kind of turn up. So it's been a really encouraging sign because, I mean, he spent time last season. He was, with Duchesne and Forsberg. He was with Luke Cunnin and Ellie Tolvanen. He was with, a bunch of different guys. He wasn't really kind of set in like on the Jofa line of old with Forsberg and Arvidsson, and still had the best season of his career since, year 4 for him. And so it's interesting. I hope that, if he did that last year, it's not a contract year for him. He wasn't out to prove anything and still performed. So we'll see if this has been a case of, John Hines has been able to get something out of Ryan Johansen that nobody else was before him. So we'll see.
Do you think the 26 goals was real? Did you see anything different, like for him to finally break out last year? Like you mentioned that he just presents a lot more chances. But was there something specific about the way he was attacking and the way he was shooting last year that leads you to believe that the 26 goals and what we saw last year on that front is sustainable for the next couple of years?
I think with a guy like Luke Cunnin on the wing, I think that it forced him to be a little bit more aggressive. There's a lot of times where criticisms in the past were like, it's him and Forsberg and Arvidsson on a rush, and you're just like, Joey, just shoot the puck. You can do it. I know you can. I know that it's going to be better to get it to Forsberg or to RV because they'll probably score too. But and I think that a guy like playing with Cunnin on the wing or Tolvanen, who was very snake bit last year, I think it fell on to Johansen to kind of facilitate more of the offense on his own. And I think he finally just kind of started to find that groove of being able to get his scoring touch back and not be just a guy who's a playmaker who's setting up the other wings. Because, again, at times he didn't have the best depth. And so he had to kind of do things himself. And so I don't know that 26 goals is an expectation for him to reach again easily this year. But, he should be back above 20 because this is the first time he's been above 20 since 2013. So we'll see. It is. I think I agree with you, Charlie. This was exactly who I was going to say as far as, who's most interesting to see because he's kind of flown under the radar last year.
Well, I apologize for taking your choice, but it just stuck out to me. But there are certainly a number of other interesting pieces. I don't know if Chase has some setup. I don't want to step on anything.
No, that was it. I like it. So Bryan, that Johansen was yours as well.
Yeah, but I will say I can give you an alternate one.
Okay.
And I think there's an easier, a very obvious reason, but it's going to be Connor Ingram. It's going to be, what he does, where he, is he going to be starting more often in Milwaukee? Is he going to be, how is he going to be splitting time, playing with Askarov? Is he going to be in the NHL? What's Lankinen going to do? It's going to be very interesting to see what he does, especially now. Again, talked about Vegas needing a goaltender now. Could that be an option to where they offer Connor Ingram because he's kind of stuck in the middle right now because for whatever reason they didn't seem to have the confidence to to immediately bring him up to Nashville and start him out in Milwaukee. So I think, it's no reason to worry just quite yet. I think they realize they've got him in his last year of his rookie deal, which is incredibly cheap for a goaltender of his caliber. And so, hopefully that can be a guy that, takes Lankinen's spot at some point in the year and Lankinen never gets it back. But it's going to be really interesting to see because, again, if Saros stays healthy, they're going to stick with him, 75-25 probably. So, it may not be a big factor anyways.
I like it. Next up, Carrier. Is he a key piece going forward, Bryan?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's a guy, and I feel bad because I brought him up 2 or 3 times already on the show, but he's a guy, again, I was extremely wrong on, when he was still in Milwaukee. I thought that Freddie Allard, another guy, was a much better prospect defensively, and that Allard was NHL ready a couple years back. Obviously Allard is gone. Carrier is in the league and he got some all rookie team. He was on the all rookie team, got votes there. He was a guy that, you had Tanner Jeannot on the roster who was making all these headlines, scoring goals and everything like that. But Carrier was sitting there playing with Ekholm, who Ekholm had, and I talked about this in my preview for Ekholm that came out yesterday. Ekholm was able to not have to be that guy, that stay-at-home defensive guy, because he had Carrier is good enough offensively that he can generate, but he's still solid enough defensively to give Ekholm a little bit of room to work. And so they complement each other extremely well. And he's got, a lot of playmaking ability. He's not quite on the level of Roman Josi. Nobody really is. But, he's really smart, and you can see his vision on the ice. He's not making a lot of mistakes that are leading to rushes from the other direction. And so I think he's a guy that, even with McDonough, he's going to be pushing to stay, in those top two pairs, with McDonough being, obviously an option to be in there, in maybe the second pair as well. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up with who. I think Dante Fabro might be the guy that gets moved down, and Carrier stays in that the top two pairings. But I think he's really important, and I'm glad Nashville stuck with him as long as they did, because they've gotten a really good player out of him.
How much of it was just being able to come into the league with Josi and Ekholm for him, where that played a pivotal role in his development?
I mean, you could say, they took a chance, because when you're playing with Matthias Ekholm or Roman Josi, you're going to be facing the top competition on the other side. They could have set him in there on the third pairing, given him a couple years to develop, but they put him in there pretty quickly, and he developed really well, against that competition. He did extremely well there was an Ottawa game, a 4-1 victory back in December, I believe. No, it was in March. I apologize. And he and Ekholm combined for 4 points. They had held, Brady Tkachuk in just the top line for like 8 minutes at 5-on-5 to completely scoreless, a third of an expected goal allowed that entire time at 5-on-5. And so, it's really, I don't know I lost my point there. Sorry. But it's just going to be really interesting to see how he's deployed and how he plays. And yeah.
But dude, my question with him going forward is like, do they expect him to get significantly better? Because you have Fabro, who he was a first-round pick, right? I mean, he was. I'd have to check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
And know that off the top of my head.
I'm just looking. Carrier was.
He was a fourth rounder, right?
Fourth round guy. And where do the expectations lie? Because you look at Fabro and you got to be like, why is he not being this dude as much? I mean, he's still that's 20 some odd point season still, but where do you set expectations going forward out of both of those dudes? Because obviously I think you look at Fabro and you got to go like, hey, let's get it going.
Yeah.
And then with Carrier, do you almost go like just repeat last year, or do you go, hey, can you throw in more than 3 goals? Let's get that up to 6. Which, looking at stats, that would match Ekholm's goal output for last year. So and you don't look at his season and think that it was bad or anything. And I like, to me that would be solid, but should it even be more expectations wise?
I mean, I think that's the thing with Nashville has, you look at their forward development over the last, 20 years, and, it's hard to find like a breakout forward that was drafted by the team and stayed with the team and has produced for the team, but they don't have that problem on defense. And I think they have allowed themselves the luxury of being able to be either patient with guys that they see a lot of potential, like Carrier, where, he spent a ton of time in Milwaukee, before he even stepped on the ice in Nashville. But then a guy like Fabro, they were patient with him. That he played his years in Boston, took his time getting over. But they know the guys have talent, and they know that they're learning from some of the best defensemen in the entire league. When you have a group of veterans like Matthias Ekholm and Roman Josi to learn from, you're getting a lot of help, and those guys are so good that they can cover up some of those mistakes as well. Because it's a system that's built around defense, and these are guys that they got trusted for a lot of hard minutes. Fabro has been, again, he's one of those guys like Eli Tolvanen, who's come in with a lot of expectations, thinking he's going to be like a Roman Josi. Is it going to be like, is this going to be another Philip Forsberg type of a situation? But Nashville's actually been pretty patient with their defensive players, and they come and fill a spot, and they become a mainstay, and a lot of the problem with Nashville is they usually have too many defenders and they have to trade some away. I was heartbroken when Sam Girard left. He was a guy, like, first development camp I went to, and I was like, I love this guy. I love the way he plays. He's going to be my favorite. Traded him away. Because they had too many, and it's just a problem that now they've got 5 guys that I'm pretty confident with now with McDonough, in that starting 6. So, I think they want to expect more out of both of them. They want to see better, see growth. But at this point, if they can just repeat what they did last year, they still got a pretty good group with the addition of McDonough.
Yeah.
I like it. Last thing, the Preds defense. How will it differ? We talked a lot about their defensive identity. My biggest question schematically, Bryan, when you look at the defense last year and what they're bringing to the table this year, what do you think will be the biggest change on defense?
It's going to be interesting because, again, Hines plays this forechecking heavy defense. It's about creating opportunities and turnovers in the offensive zone so that you can turn around and score quickly. But as we saw last year, that caused a lot of problems with penalties. And, your defense can only be so good when, you got your guys out there. You've got Yossi or Ekholms out there playing 10 to 12 penalty minutes a game, which is ridiculous. That's Saros facing constant pressure. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if they adjust how they work a little bit. I don't know that Hines will implement that change so quickly, but I think that the defense on paper should be better than last year, just by the addition of McDonough. We're not starting a Ben Harper. We're not getting Matt Benning. It's not Phil Myers. It's a guy that's a veteran that can be out there. He's probably going to commit some of those penalties and probably get in the box a bunch with McDonough is. And, but the defense should be better on paper. It's just a matter of, can the execution and the discipline match that so that you have a group that's not spending 38, 37 minutes out in a game like Roman Yossi does regularly.
I think my expectation for the defense this season is to not have so many moments where you look at what is in front of UC Saros and you go, oh man, this guy's screwed. Like you just, there was just so much of him just getting hung out to dry, whether it was penalty related or not even. There was just so much of that. And that, that has to stop for UC's sake and for the team's sake. It was brutal at times last year. And then there was no more time where that was stark than against the Avalanche. You play a team like that, and you're just cooked if that's the way that you're going to play defense. So any improvement on that would be welcome. I would say that. There
you go. Charlie, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at A to Z Sports this week?
Dude, college football finally here. Praise be. I guess if you consider Vanderbilt and Hawaii actual football, which that's debatable, but
well, hold on. I'm a real sicko that loves watching Hawaii late at night. That's my nightcap. I've always been dating back to the Colt Brennan era. Timmy Chang now leading this team, run and shoot back. Yeah, no, Hawaii's a good time.
Yes. And then there's what an overseas game between Northwestern and
Nebraska.
Nebraska's so weird.
Dublin, noon.
Yeah. But regardless, college football.
Why would you do it in Lincoln when you can do it in Dublin?
Honestly, that's fun as hell. I don't know. That's a great trip.
College, I don't know. Like NFL is one thing, but like college, the entire the cool parts Tennessee's playing Maryland in Brooklyn, where it's just like what. Yeah, it's cool for the Tennessee fans to go to Brooklyn for a couple days if they can do it. But we watched last year. I think was it Villanova? We played in Brooklyn last year, where it was just nobody there had any interest in either team, and it's just such a terrible atmosphere. And you're like, you know what? It would have been cool just playing at Villanova or Tennessee. Like that's where it's fun. Like Tennessee, Arizona being at Tennessee was really cool. Yeah. I'm like, hey, Nebraska's got an awesome home fan base. Like, just do it there. Like, what are we doing?
It is interesting because when you talk to people from essentially anywhere else in the world besides America, there is no college sports. To translate that to people, and then you show them like how many people show up to like a Tennessee football game, they go like, how is that real? How is college? It's not. That's ridiculous, So I agree. Just play a home and home for everything. neutral site games are stupid. Stop with those.
Yes.
Just play home and home, and then expand the playoff and make those for the first round at home and home too, or not home and home, but make.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. Like Tennessee. What is it? Tennessee, Virginia, and Nashville next year. It's like they spin it with recruiting, and it's like, no, you can just do a home and home. That's fine. Just do a home and home with UVA.
I just don't. The game next year in Nashville is fine. It's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome because
we should do Preds Power Hour from Nashville.
We should. Yeah. But no, neutral site games rule. What are you talking about? Neutral site games rule. Like we wouldn't have Bristol.
Wait, hold on. Are you doing? Is this a take? Is this a take, Bryan?
Yeah, they're fun.
Oh, this is a take. All right, explain yourself. I've not encountered a neutral sites are actually good take. This is rough for me.
I mean, there are some that don't make, like you said, you talked about in Brooklyn, like that's different. But that's also like that's good for recruits. That's good for fans. That is cool for fans. That's cool for the players to go do that type of thing. Neutral site games are, if you're a graduate who doesn't live in East Tennessee, or you're somebody who goes to college and then moves away from it, like your chances to see that team are very, few and far between. When I lived in Tampa, the Outback Bowl 2 years in a row was my chance to see Tennessee. But no, I think it's cool when you get to see that, because that's stuff that, people are going to get exposed to it who normally wouldn't. It's usually bigger capacity. I don't think there's anything wrong.
I don't think the Titans is bigger than the Vols, right? Like, what is the Titans?
40,000 less people, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking more about like you're going to have more people from like both sides, And so,
but I don't want both sides. That's the whole thing about college football. Like, I want it to be like overwhelmingly intense. It's just
non-conference games are fine to be neutral site. Non-conference games perfect for neutral site.
We've stretched it, like with bowl games. We've just stretched it too thin. Where we're going, Tennessee, Virginia, like the Battle of Bristol was excellent. I was there. It was unbelievable.
It's also a natural rivalry. Like, it's not far. Like, I don't know why we don't play Virginia Tech all the time.
It was set up exactly perfectly because it was exactly in between the two.
I agree.
Plattsburgh and Knoxville. Like, that's an exception. I'll carve one out for the Battle of Bristol. But, I mean, Virginia, it would be cool to play
the battle of the Danny White finalists.
Like it really, like, to me, that's far more interesting. And like a game, it ended up not happening. Tennessee bought its way out, but like a game at BYU, I don't want to play BYU in Dallas or something. I want to go to Provo because it's, I've been there multiple times. It's an incredible area of the country. It's so beautiful. If you've never make it your way there, if you've never had a trip to Provo, Salt Lake City, it's beautiful. But stuff like that, I don't know. I love it.
It could have been a great start to Nico's career, just over there in Provo. A lot of family probably could have gotten over there. Southern Cal to Utah.
I would have 100% saw BYU Tennessee at Jerry World. Are you kidding me?
This is
Tennessee
interesting.
At Jerry World.
Cool. Different strokes for different folks, man. I like this. There you go.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the just play at each other's home fields.
Well, there you go.
But to finish
all views welcome here.
College football is coming up, which is my time of year. That's my main game.
Cromp's back.
He goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, are you having him on?
See, hey Bryan, this is how we learn that Charlie doesn't listen to the podcast.
Was it already? I saw.
It was already up. Last week.
On your prep sheets last week.
Yeah,
I missed it. I saw on your prep sheet that he was on there.
Yeah, like sometimes like I don't like the main ones. I will edit. I should probably like.
You post one every single day, so I must have just missed it. But I subscribe on the Spotify. I'm subscribed.
There you go. All right. No, Cromp's awesome. We also found out that my fiance's best friend is like good friends with Cromp, and it's just a small world. So like she reached out. She was like, "Hey, I heard you're going on a Tracer." And it was like a small world, but no, Cromp was great. Cromp's fun. Yeah, he's a chill dude. Cromp is a very laid back man.
And his stories about Tennessee football are insane. And I do a game day show with him on Tennessee football game days, which we will start this coming Thursday. Me, Jonathan Crompton, halftime, post game. I'll
call in from Neyland with noted service, Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, the great service at Neyland Stadium. But we'll be doing that. It's so much fun, dude. His take on any specifically like strategically the way that he views football, because he was the former quarterback, is I literally cannot see the game of football the way that he sees it. It's like he's, you always hear like people take like LSD and stuff, and they like see God, and it's like a whole they're on like another plane. I feel like his vision of football is like he's like taking football LSD. He's like on a different plane where I'm like, how did you even notice that was a thing? So I highly suggest listening to that. And then now the podcast that I do every week, like that I've mentioned in weeks past, me, Zach Reagan, the Big Orange podcast every Monday, and it's going to be live streamed 4 p.m. every Monday, starting this coming week, 4 p.m. this coming week. That's an exclusive. I haven't announced that anywhere.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
4 p.m. Yeah.
Preds Power Hour. The announcement is confirmed. 4 p.m. every Monday night, YouTube channel, A to Z Sports. I like it. Bryan, I know you've been writing a lot over at On the Forecheck. All kinds of good content coming out over there on that front. What can the good folks check out from you this week at Renegades of Puck and On the Forecheck?
Yeah, so continuing our preview pieces with On the Forecheck, you can see those every day. This is coming up. I've got one on Ryan Johansen, as you might have guessed, coming up. Also, speaking of, I'll be doing stuff with the Renegades of Puck. You'll start to see shows coming back up as we get closer. We've got the cookout here in Nashville, down in Mount Juliet on September 24th. If you guys get the chance, come out. It's free. It's going to be barbecue competition, bunch of other stuff, because we'll be gearing up our coverage, because the first big game that we'll be covering is, drum roll, it's a neutral site game in Europe, which neutral site games rule. So
they're in Europe.
Isn't that Florida weekend? Isn't Tennessee, Florida, September 24th?
It's usually usually around the time of the month that I get depressed. So
Smoky Grays are back this year, though. Smoky Grays for that one.
Let's hope. So you'll see me there. I'll be spinning up a lot of coverage. We'll be getting some new faces in at the website, and so it'll be great. I'm excited about this season and covering the Preds for another year.
And I'll be a married man at that point.
Yes, sir.
That's wild. That's wild. Florida game. That's my first married game. Oh man, our marriage is either going to start off extremely happy, where it's just we got over the hump, and it's like all it took was getting married to get over the Florida hump. But why didn't I do this years ago? Or just it's like just the sadness of walking out of there and just.
Are you getting married in Knoxville? First of all, what venue?
The stables at Strawberry Fields.
Oh, okay.
So everybody go to Chase's wedding.
I was gonna say I don't even know if you were putting me on the spot there, and I'm like, do I want to put that out there?
You can cut that. You can cut that out. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Just voice over and just say Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, Westtown Mall.
Yeah.
But the choice to go for the fall wedding is bold. Hold
on. I knew you were going to say that, and that's the whole thing. And people had conversations. I had weekends that I was like, I can't, like Florida weekend out. Like a lot of the home, you have to be very strategic with a fall wedding choice. So it was the Akron weekend. So it was just that. But Tennessee was supposed to play Akron at noon, and they're playing at 7. Like, why is this a night game?
That's weird. I don't think I've even noticed that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I never would have thought when I did that. I was like, oh, that's clearly a nooner. Like, that's
means I have to do my live show for the Akron game at like that night, which is annoying. But anyway, the thing you don't like, you probably thought of this, but the thing that I didn't fully consider, I ended up not having a fall wedding. But the thing that I didn't consider was the years after, when the anniversary comes. What are you doing that weekend? Because
I didn't consider this.
My wife is she just doesn't care about Tennessee sports. She's not like against it. She's just not from here, didn't, grow up with it. And so actually ours, typically nothing falls on it, but it has on multiple occasions been the orange and white game. And she's like, if you watch the orange and white game on the day of our anniversary, I'll strangle you and kill you. So you do have to consider that, just the,
Interesting. I had not considered. Oh my god, this was something that was not on my radar.
Oops, I didn't mean to burst that bubble.
I was laser focused on just this year. I was not thinking down the road of like, oh, this is the okay.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, no, I got to give it to you. Charlie raises an excellent point. Yeah.
Well, fun times. We'll figure it out. Let me just get through this first. Let me get through the next 3 weeks. Let me do that.
You've got it, buddy. Hey,
dude, you're good.
You're completely. She knows what she got herself into.
That's
and if
true.
She hasn't run by now, then I think you're fine.
Hey, yeah, very straightforward about the sports watching and my day to day. And
you're kind of a sports guy.
Yeah. Bryan, Bastin, Charlie Burris, thank you as always for making the time. You can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/ChaseThomasPodcast. Like and subscribe. Preds Power Hour, full episodes here, video content, all kinds of clips there as well. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review about Preds Power Hour. If that's one of your favorite shows each and every week, we'd love to hear from you guys at ChaseThomasPodcast@gmail.com with any future mailbag questions for us or anything you'd like for us to talk about Preds-wise. ChaseThomasPodcast@gmail.com. Bryan, Charlie, you guys have yourself a great rest of your weekend, and I will talk to y'all next week.
See you next week.